Ever get that feeling like you're on a treadmill, working hard but not really getting anywhere?
I know that feeling, yeah.
Well, that's kind of what we're diving into today with all these articles you share. They're about sustainability, economic growth, all that, right? And specifically this idea called the Treadmill of Production, or TOP for short. Basically, why it's so hard to be eco-friendly in a world obsessed with growth.
Yeah, it's a fascinating theory, really. It's like, imagine a hamster running on his
Wheel.
Okay, I can see that. Keeps going and going, needs more and more. Resources in this case would be food for the hamster, I guess. But it never really gets anywhere different. We keep pushing for more, consuming more. But where does it get us?
Right, like we're stuck in this loop. So the global economy is the hamster wheel in this scenario.
Exactly. And the treadmill of production, this theory, it argues that capitalism by its very nature, well, it has to keep growing, right? This requires resources.
Energy, basically everything.
Exactly, the treadmill of production shines a light on, well, it forces us to look at this tension, this clash really, between needing constant economic growth and, well, the environment, the planet.
It's like those two things can't coexist peacefully.
That's what the treadmill of production's trying to tell us. It's like, we want short-term profits, but often that comes at the cost of the long-term health of the planet. Sustainability takes a back
seat.
Yeah, and the articles you sent, they really drove that point home. Like one study, it said by 2050, there could be more plastic in the ocean than fish.
By weight.
Yeah.
By weight. Which is, yeah, that's a terrifying thought. It's like we talk about saving the oceans, but are we even trying?
It's a prime example of the treadmill of production playing out in the real world. It highlights that this whole system, it relies on us constantly extracting resources. Like we chop down forests for wood, dig up minerals, burn fossil fuels for energy in every step of the way. Well, there are consequences.
Yeah, deforestation, pollution, climate change, like it's all connected to this need for more.
Right.
And it's not like we can just, stop shopping. I mean, our whole economy is built around buying stuff.
You're right. It's not just about needing things to live. It's more than that. We're bombarded with messages, ads everywhere telling us we need the newest stuff.
Oh, absolutely. New phone, new clothes, new car. It never
stops.
And you know what really gets
me?
What's that?
Planned obsolescence.
Oh, tell me about it. My phone, like clockwork, starts acting up right when the new model comes out. You think it's a coincidence.
Right. But here's the thing. It's not just the environment that takes a hit. Those articles you sent, they brought up another big concern. Social inequality.
Meaning this whole system, it doesn't affect everyone equally.
Exactly. The benefits, who do they go to? Those at the top. The costs, though, pollution, resource depletion that often falls on the shoulders of, marginalized communities. They're the ones who are hit the hardest.
So, we're talking about stuff like environmental racism. Yeah, where communities of color often end up living near polluting factories or in areas most affected by climate change.
Exactly, they bear the brunt of it. The treadmill of production, it often ends up just making existing social injustices even worse.
It's like it's widening the gap instead of, bringing us all together.
Right? It's a real problem, yeah, but the articles you sent, they don't just point out the problems, they talk about solutions too.
Okay, good, because I was starting to feel kind of, hopeless. So what are some of the alternatives they mentioned?
Well, some people say, and it's a popular argument, that technology is the answer, Like, we just need better solar panels, ways to capture carbon, stuff like that, and then boom, problem solved.
I get that, but I don't know, it feels like we've heard that before, haven't we? Technology will fix
it. Right, and it's not that simple, is it? Technology is part of it for sure, but we can't just, invent our way out of this one. It needs a bigger shift, a systemic change. And that's where these alternative economic models come in. Like, have you heard of the circular economy?
Yeah, I've heard the term. I'm not totally sure I get it though. What's that all about?
So picture this. Instead of just using stuff and throwing it away, what if we design products to be, reused, repaired, recycled? That way we keep resources in use for longer instead of constantly needing new ones.
So it's like a loop, instead of a straight line from production to, the landfill.
Exactly, we gotta shift our thinking from that take, make, dispose mentality to reduce, reuse, recycle. Like companies using recycled materials or designing products so they can be easily fixed instead of just tossed
out. Right, that makes a lot of sense. Are there other alternatives like that besides the circular thing?
There's this whole other idea, it's called degrowth or sometimes post-growth economics. And basically it challenges this whole idea that we need constant economic growth. It asks like, is that even possible in the long run? And is it even good?
So instead of always wanting more, what does degrowth focus on?
Things like well-being, social equality, protecting the environment. Those become the goals, not just increasing GDP. It's a pretty different way of looking at things.
It is. I mean, are there any examples of degrowth actually happening like in the...
Why, real world? It's tricky. There's no country that's like fully on board with degrowth, but there are, policies, little things here and there. Like Bhutan, they have this thing called the Gross National Happiness Index. It's like they care about well-being more than just, money.
That's really interesting. It seems like these alternative models, they force us to really think about our relationship with consumption, with growth, like at a fundamental level. But I mean, how do we even start to make such a huge
change? That is the million-dollar question, but you know what? Those articles, they do offer some, guidance.
Okay, so it's not all just theory. There are actual things we
can do. Oh, for sure. And it starts with, awareness, like us right now having this conversation, getting informed, that's huge, but it can't stop there. Those articles, they stressed individual action, but also systemic change.
So what does that look like, the individual action part?
It's about being more thoughtful, about what we buy, reducing our own waste, supporting companies that are, actually trying to be sustainable.
So, like less packaging, repairing stuff instead of tossing it, being picky about where we spend our money.
Yes, all of that. And beyond that, there's power in numbers, right? Getting involved in local environmental groups, speaking up, pushing for policy changes, all that stuff adds up.
It's a lot for sure, but it also feels empowering, like there are things we can do. We're not powerless in...
This, exactly. And that brings me to something like a question, really, that stuck with me from those articles.
It does feel like, I don't know, like we're at some kind of turning point, Like we can't just keep doing what we've been doing.
That's exactly where those articles lead you, don't they? They make you think, okay, if endless growth isn't the answer, then what is? What should our economies even be aiming for? How do we measure success if it's not just about more?
Yeah, it's not just about recycling more or whatever. It's bigger than that. It's like we need to, rethink our whole value system, right? As a society.
Exactly, and that means asking some tough questions like, how do we measure well-being and progress if it's not just about, like you said, about stuff, about GDP? And how do we make sure everyone benefits from this shift to a more sustainable system? Because let's be honest, the way things are now, not everyone's benefiting.
Right. We can't just leave people behind. These are big questions, huh? Not easy answers.
Not at all. But the important thing, I think, is that we're asking them.
Right.
Instead of just pretending everything's fine.
Exactly. We have to at least try to figure it out.
And the articles you shared, they don't give all the answers, which is kind of refreshing, actually.
Yeah, it's not like a how-to guide or something.
Right. It's more like they're saying, hey, we need to think critically about this stuff, challenge our assumptions, and imagine a future where people and the planet actually matter.
So it's not about having everything figured out right this second. It's more about starting the conversation.
Yes, and being open to different possibilities. Working together to create something better, something more sustainable, more equitable.
Well said. And I think that's what's been so great about this deep dive, We've really dug into these complex ideas like the treadmill of production. And hopefully, our listeners are walking away with, more awareness. And maybe even a sense of hope that things can be different, because we have the power to make those changes happen. It's not going to be easy, but it's possible, and that's something worth striving for. Absolutely. Thanks for diving in with me today. This is a good one.